reality TV is, it's so polarizing, there's so much drama. Yeah, exactly. But that's life.
Yeah.
There's good and there's bad, listen, I've been doing this a long time. I've coached games athletes, elite level athletes now for 15 years. Like, you have some athletes and some people who are really great people, really good, like genuinely unbelievable. And you have some people who are assholes. And that's life. That's every sport, like every single sport. Like, that's the way it is. But people want to see that, right? Like, I mean, the most polarizing athletes are not always the fan favorites, right? The villains are also very popular. And that's important. It's important in sports. And you see that in every single sport. And so to try to sugarcoat it too much, and I just feel like CrossFit is so vanilla.
Yes. So I did a little bit of research. I mean, I don't have to do a ton of research because I know you. But I've been to your how can I share the screen? I've been to your Instagram just to check what you're up to these days.
Yeah.
Here it is. I found this one. It's not it's not up to date, but I love this. I mean, look at this.
Yeah. Yeah. I know the reaction's the best.
The reaction's insane.
Yeah.
But wait for it. The celebration.
I know, that's the best.
I love it.
Yeah, so good. I know.
So good.
It is so good.
I have to incorporate this celebration when I do a lift or something.
Yeah, she's something else, man. She's only 6 years old. It's pretty
6 years old, man. How long
she's a freak.
is she doing the gymnastics?
Since she was 2. But she
Wow.
grew up in the gym, and yeah, people always ask, who's the best athlete in the gym in Las Vegas, and I always tell them it's my 6-year-old daughter. If we're being honest,
Man,
yeah,
awesome.
she's state champion on beam and on bars and vault last year in Nevada, and she's 2-3 years younger than every other girl in her level, and she's also a prodigy rock climber. She's incredible. She's unbelievable rock climber too. Yeah,
little Laura Horwath.
Yeah, it's cool. So just yeah, her 3 sports that she's into: gymnastics, rock climbing, and ninja warrior. So she's
Ninja warrior? Is that a sport in the States? Like, is this a legit thing, or is it just a TV
made
show?
for TV sport? But no, it's legit, man. There's tons of competitions, and
really,
the kids are unbelievable. Oh my gosh, it's probably the only sport that's come out of like a television show, but it's a legit sport now. I mean, you've got the gym that we rent from is connected there. There's it's a very big facility. They have a 10,000 square foot CrossFit side, and then on they're connected to a ninja gym. So they have a whole ninja setup on the other side. So it's super cool. Like, when she comes to the gym, she goes straight into the ninja side and just plays, and it's just such a cool thing for kids. It's massive here in the States.
Wow.
And it's really big for kids. And it's great. It's kind of similar to the CrossFit community in that, like, super supportive and, kind of family feel at a lot of the gyms, etc. So yeah, it's cool. And Vegas, where we live, they have like a lot of big competitions, and then they hold like the national championships here, like the finals. So so it's cool because there's a lot of comps here. But yeah, she's awesome. Yeah, she's pretty cool.
Wow. Is it like the kids in that, are there like age groups, or is it just like you can basically do it like from 6 to, I don't know, 18.
Yeah, it starts, I think you can start competing at 6. And then, so they'll have like 6 and 7 year olds, and then like, the 8 to 10s, and then like 10 to 12, etc. So you'll have age groups. Um, but generally speaking, yeah. So, and then they have these big, Ninja Kids competitions, they're massive. And the guy that won this year, like the national finals, was like the champion of the Ninja Kids, and then now has gone on to be like the champ.
Oh, wow.
Vance something, I forget, but I mean, you watch him and it's absolutely unbelievable. I mean, what an incredible athlete! Like the stuff that they do. I mean, their strength to body weight ratio is just wild, because most of them, like, they incorporate gymnastics, they incorporate acrobatics, they incorporate rock climbing, so body awareness, kinesthesia is just nuts. Like they've just got this, proprioception, and it's really cool. And all the kids that are in the classes with her, they're all, it's amazing to walk in there and see a kids class and the stuff that they're doing. I mean, it kind of looks like stuff you would do in the circus, so yeah, it's pretty cool.
Of course, man. Is this,
yeah,
when you look at this, like this pose, is this more like body awareness or more overcoming? Like, if I would do this, it would be about overcoming
scared,
fear,
right? Yeah, for her, she's like talented enough, strength wise and balance wise, to do that. The biggest issue for her was just the fear of being on the high beam. So she had been able to do that on, you see the low beams. If you look over to the right, you see all
these
the
ones.
low beams the kids are standing on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was able to do it on that for several weeks prior to doing this, but she would get on the high beam and it's just, you get scared,
Yeah.
But then it's just repetition. She goes to a really great gymnastics school here. The gymnastics club is phenomenal. And her coach is great. Her coaches, she has multiple coaches, and yeah, so it's cool, man. I mean, it's crazy to think, but she's a 6-year-old. Ivy, my daughter's a 6-year-old, and she has 16 hours of practice a week already.
Wow.
Yeah. So every day we pick her up from school, and we pick her up from school at 3 p.m. and we take her straight to gymnastics, and she has gymnastics Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 4 to 8 p.m. So 4 hours of practice, 4 days a week. And that's at 6.
Wow.
And then on Friday, I pick her up straight from school and we go to rock climbing class. And then she rock climbs on Friday and we rock climb on Saturday morning. And then she'll come to the Ninja gym, usually on Saturday afternoons. And then she has an off day on Sunday. We usually hang out.
Man.
Do family stuff on Sundays. I take off from the gym and we do some fun stuff. So yeah, man,
that's crazy.
Cool.
Since 2 years old, I think, like, gymnastic classes here in Germany, I looked it up because of my newborn son, and I think it starts from 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah, and especially for boys, really hard to find. Yeah, our son is 3, and we can't really start him in anything until 4. That's kind of the cutoff. We're going to start him in martial arts, and he comes with me to the rock climbing gym, so he rock climbs, just in the gym, obviously. And he's actually showing a lot of kind of similar ability that my daughter did at that age, at 3. The issue with the 3-year-old, though, is just attention. He'll climb for 5 minutes and then he wants to go eat a cookie, and then he'll climb for 10 minutes and then he wants to jump around like Spider-Man. So but just getting him in to do it, like, he loves it. So now I take him 2 or 3 times a week, and we try to go at off hours because you have to be careful with a 3-year-old, especially with people climbing above him. And if they drop down onto, you got to be careful. They're not going to fall on top of him, especially those people that are bouldering and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's difficult to find, extracurricular activities for kids, especially for boys. Cause we can't,
Why do you
they don't
think
really
that
even have
is
gymnastics classes. Yeah. I don't know. It's weird,
between boys
but
and
martial
girls?
arts is really the good, is the, is a good thing, I think, and similar in a sense to gymnastics, just about creating body awareness, strength and balance and discipline,
Yeah.
which I think are all super important. The one thing I'd like to do eventually with my daughter and I just don't know if she'll have the time because of how time consuming gymnastics is, especially if you excel at it, especially here in the States. I mean, the hours just keep piling up. And eventually, I mean, they tell you if you're good enough, you're going to end up having to be homeschooled because you're not going to have enough time to go to school, and
That's a good thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I would love to
So
homeschool here, but it's not
yeah,
possible
yeah,
in
right.
Germany.
Really? Yeah. So but I would love to get her into a team sport too, just because I think it's
Yeah.
super important. Soccer or volleyball or softball, something that just teaches you to work with a team and to listen to a coach and to be accountable to others, because right now she's doing all individual sports.
Yeah.
So I'd like to do that. And she's I just think she's an incredible natural athlete. I think she'd do really well. It's just hard time wise, and then as they get older in gymnastics too, they're kind of like, we don't really want her doing that because she could get hurt, so we just have to see what happens.
See what
But
happens.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's all good stuff. I mean, I feel like I mean, sports are just so great, for kids. I mean, I grew up playing every sport, and it was a huge part of my life growing up. I mean, I remember, the same thing, waking up. I mean, getting, school is over and I'm going to, football practice, or I'm going to basketball practice or tennis or golf, etc., until I eventually like settled in on one or two sports that I focused on and then eventually played in college, but just had so much fun, playing sports as a kid. I think it's, and
Yeah.
it's anything right now that I can do to get them off the screens. Um, you
Exactly.
know,
Yeah.
oh
I was
my
thinking like
gosh.
16 hours, man, is that reasonable? But like you said it, like every hour they're on their feet and doing something with their body is a win.
Right. Because I mean, honestly, otherwise they're just doing this.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's wild. And all, she's 6. She doesn't have a cell phone yet, but all of the, the majority of the girls, she's level 4 here in the States. And most of the girls that are level 4 are 9 or 10 years old. She's like, 3 years
Yeah.
younger than most of the girls in her level. And they all have cell phones. They're all on group chats. They're all on this. And then you go and, like when they're not, not practicing, maybe they'll give them 5 minutes, take a break, whatever. They all just sit around on their stinking phones and nobody
Yeah.
talks to
It's
each other.
crazy.
And it's just brutal, dude. Yeah. So I
That's
love it. I
crazy.
mean, I think the more that they can do stuff and be, stay busy and stay off the screens, the better, for sure.
What martial arts would you like to get your son into?
Oh man, he's a ball of energy. So at this point, anything. Um, but yeah, we'll probably start him in, maybe Taekwondo or
Mhm.
karate, something like that. Although there's a really good jujitsu school. It's not too far from here. So that's possible. And then we're also in the mecca of MMA, like in Vegas. That's
Yeah.
the headquarters of
Wow. Yeah.
UFC and stuff like that. So there's a lot of really good schools here. So we'll in general, just kind of, I think when we start kind of general, like I said, like Taekwondo or karate, and then we'll see, what he likes. But yeah, he, he's, he's funny. Or we say it's like, oh my gosh. I mean, Ivy was a handful at 3, but this dude is so destructive. Our 3-year-old, he's all boy, man. He's he's trucks and trains and superheroes. You know, he gets dressed up in Spider-Man and walks
Yeah,
around in a Spider-Man
I've seen a
outfit
lot of
everywhere we
like
go.
posts with his Spider-Man suit. So fun.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. He's got a Spider-Man bed now, and you know, like he's all about it. So
That's so
yeah,
cool.
that'll be soon. But
I
yeah,
heard a lot
it's
of I heard a lot of
good.
good things about judo lately.
Mm,
Lately, a lot of parents told me, "Yeah, get your kid into judo. They teach a lot of good values there." Something.
okay. I mean, that's a possibility too. Yeah. I think, listen, uh, I think more of it is about the coach and the school, right? I mean,
Yeah,
because you can have a great discipline or a great art, and if you don't have a great coach, right? If the coach sucks, then it's not going to be a good situation.
yeah,
So it's really important to find a reputable school and a reputable coach, and I think that goes for anything. It goes for any sport. It goes, I mean, kind of tie it back into CrossFit, right? Like
yeah,
there's a ton of affiliates and not every affiliate is created equally, right? You can walk into one and you get lucky, you get a great coach, you get great programming. You can walk into another, you get a shitty coach and awful programming, right? And it could be
yeah,
the difference between sticking with it or getting hurt and never doing it again. And I think,
yeah,
you see that all over the place, especially when you've got, 10,000, 12,000, 15,000 affiliates, whatever it is.
yeah.
So, I think that goes for anything.
And that changed so much. I had a discussion with another coach from Germany, and I've
Mm,
started like 2013, and he was starting in 2012. And at that
mm,
time in Germany, or I think in Europe in general, if you ended up in a CrossFit gym at that time, you wanted to do CrossFit, you searched for it.
mm-hmm.
But now it's totally changed. Like people like just a coincidence, like step into the gym. Oh, what's this? I want to do that. I
Yeah.
try this and that. It changed so much. Back in the days, if you were doing CrossFit, you want to do it. You searched for it. And that's totally
Yes.
different now, I think.
Yeah, that's what it was when I started. I mean, it was
Yeah.
still, it was you had to search it out, I mean, it was kind of like, what's this, because I
Yeah.
mean, I
When did you start?
started doing it in 2008.
Wow.
2008.
Man,
Yeah.
how did you
Yeah.
find it?
Yeah. Buddy of mine, in the Globo gym that I was training at, he was doing a lot of like functional fitness. So he was doing CrossFit.com. He had found .com. There was this other thing we followed called Jim Jones, which is what all uh uh all the guys from 300 trained for
Yeah,
in
the movie.
Jim
Yeah.
Jones. Yeah. Um Mark Twight, who was a early CrossFit guy who then opened up his own thing with Jim Jones, which was, it was a, just a small kind of underground gym in Utah, and they published their stuff online, so you could. So at that time we were doing all like, CrossFit.com workouts, we were doing Jim Jones workouts, and then you just you get hooked, obviously, right? And then we started training with a bunch of really good athletes in our gym, and then coaching them, and then and then I went and got my certs, CrossFit cert, and the powerlifting and Olympic weightlifting, and CrossFit Kids, gymnastics, this and that. But at the beginning, man, it was super cool. Like at that time, there were no CrossFit boxes. We affiliated in, and we're one of the first ones in the area, in our area in Queens, New York, which is, just outside of Manhattan, CrossFit Dynamics. And yeah, it was different. It was a different time, it wasn't like, and then it just blew up. But like 2013, 2014 here in the States is when it was at its peak, at its pinnacle. I mean, it was wild. But then all of a
Yeah.
sudden it became Starbucks. You walk down the street and there were 5 CrossFits. Like, and they were,
Wow.
and yeah, and there was no restriction on how close people could open up. And then you had the problem of like, you would groom a coach, and then all of a sudden the coach would open up a place across the street from you. That happened to me twice, um, And it just sucked the authenticity out of it, in my opinion. It diluted the greatness of it. Um, I think we've seen, especially in the States, it's, we've seen it go like this, in the States, over the last several years. So yeah, I think it's still growing in parts of the world. I think South America, Africa, Asia, etc. It's still growing. But I'm curious. I'm curious to see. Obviously the affiliate fees just raised.
Yeah, I
Uh,
was
you
just
know,
gonna say, what do you think about that? Is this a good
I th-
move or?
um, I think, I think for them it is probably. I mean,
Hmm.
I think you'll get some people to de-affiliate, but I think it'll be, I know that this past year, my understanding is that they kind of broke even. And when you're owned by a venture capital firm, they're not looking to break even. They want to make money. They
Yeah.
want to make money. And then they want to sell it. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to increase the value, and then they're going to sell it ultimately. So you see what they're doing, I feel like with the affiliate, raising affiliate fees, even if they lose, even if they lose, 10%, ultimately with new affiliates that sign on, I think long-term, they're going to make money. And then what they did with, with the season, with increasing the quarterfinals pool, right, from 10% to 25%. I mean, it's a massive cash grab.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'm curious, but I'm curious to see what they do with it. What are they going to do? How are they going to reinvest? Are they going to reinvest into marketing and media and try to promote,
Yeah.
the methodology and try to get people into the gyms? Are they going to promote the sport better? Are they going to, because right now the sport really doesn't have a media side. They got rid of all the media. They got rid of the Miles to Madison, piece. So I'm curious to see what they do, because
Yeah.
I feel like the sport itself, could be so much more popular and so much bigger. When you see what these athletes can do, I mean, it's superhuman. I get to see it on a daily basis. I get to coach athletes that do things that defy the laws of strength and conditioning. It doesn't make sense. And I think if more people understood it and were able to see it, on a global scale, as opposed to just, kind of the niche scale that it is right now. And that's why I've talked recently on a lot of podcasts about a show similar to like Drive to Survive from Formula One, or, Ultimate
Yeah.
Fighter, like from UFC, like
They did
creating
that
something
from the
like that.
start on. They did
Right.
all of that.
Right. And F1 became a household. I mean, listen, F1 was a niche. There were people that loved F1, but I mean, I'll be honest, like that's how I was
In the
introduced
States.
to it. I was never an F1 fan. Yeah. In the States, we didn't know about
Yeah.
it really,
Yeah.
you know,
That's
and I became a
crazy. In
fan.
Germany, it's such a big
Yeah.
thing.
Right. Right. And in the
In Germany,
States,
it's
it's not at all.
insanely popular. But I think
Yeah. And
mostly
now it's
because
huge.
we had like
Michael
this,
Schumacher. You
yeah,
had
this crazy
Schumacher.
driver who won it like 10 times in a row. So
Right.
that played a
Right.
part, but I think
Mm-hmm.
in Europe generally it's a huge sport.
Huge, huge. It's
Yeah.
huge globally, other than in the US. And now it's blowing up, and a lot of that has to do with the reality show. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the world we live in right now. And I think CrossFit lends itself so well to a reality show. I think these athletes, I mean, look at them. I mean,
Yeah. There's
they're,
some characters.
I mean, and they look like they've been carved out of granite. The stories behind the scenes. I mean, listen, we're one of the camps who've had some controversial stories and some controversial athletes, over the last few years. But those are stories I think people would be interested in. Those are stories people want to
Yeah.
hear, and those are things
Yeah.
that. And at the end of the day, we're missing that, And I think, I think if you created that for people, that this sport could explode. And I think we're missing that. So hopefully,
Yeah.
in the next few years, I think it's something that we could see. And I think it lends itself now, because of the training camps, because you've got these athletes in specific areas. It'd be very easy for people to go and visit a specific camp here and a camp here and a camp, and you could go and you could create 10 episodes like that, you know, and you'd get some really interesting content, and you'd get it'd be, I see people are always like, oh, reality TV is, it's so polarizing, there's so much drama. Yeah, exactly. But that's life.
Yeah.
There's good and there's bad, listen, I've been doing this a long time. I've coached games athletes, elite level athletes now for 15 years. Like, you have some athletes and some people who are really great people, really good, like genuinely unbelievable. And you have some people who are assholes. And that's life. That's every sport, like every single sport. Like, that's the way it is. But people want to see that, right? Like, I mean, the most polarizing athletes are not always the fan favorites, right? The villains are also very popular. And that's important. It's important in sports. And you see that in every single sport. And so to try to sugarcoat it too much, and I just feel like CrossFit is so vanilla at the top, you don't get any of that stuff. And I'd like to see it. I think it would make things so much interesting, and so much more interesting. And I think people would gravitate towards it. And I think we could open up, the spectator pool massively by doing something like that.
I think so too. And it needs villains. It needs like rivalry. I think like this small little thing at the games between Adler and Grenikov, it blew up so massively in our bubble. But it was nothing, basically. Just a small thing. Imagine like there's something really like a rivalry. Like, I don't know, like in German soccer, like Schalke and Dortmund, they're like hate each other. That would be, but it's for the sport, it's amazing. Because all the fans go to the derby and they're like, oh, we're gonna fuck this other things up. That would be so good in CrossFit.
Yeah, it's sick. Exactly. So, we need more of that. We need more rivalries. We need more, we've got some heroes. We need more villains. We need, so we'll see. But I really do think, there's an opportunity for this thing to really, to really grow, especially on the sports side. I think it's massive. And then I think you get all these people who are interested in the methodology. And then once they see it, they would walk into affiliates, I mean, there's people that would want to do it. So I think it could work hand in hand. But I'm curious, I mean, people a lot smarter than me would have to figure out the logistics, and it obviously takes money. So we'd have to see, just have to see how it works.
Yeah, man. Was it always on your mind to start coaching, like from the beginning?
Nah, I don't think so. I was a musician. I was a full-time.
Ooh, really?
Yeah. So I was a full-time recording artist when I got out of school.
What did you play?
When I graduated, I was a singer.
Oh,
yeah, R&B soul singer.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so I was full-time, had a record deal, full-time 10 years, from like 1997 to 2007. I mean, I toured the world. I did all kinds of really cool things. My stuff is still on Spotify and iTunes, and people always are like, no, that's not you. They're like, no, that's not you. I'm like, no, it is me. Yeah. So, but it was always music and sports, like my whole life. I was a naturally pretty gifted athlete and a naturally, very gifted singer. And so I loved doing both. But, I would say to people, why'd you stop singing? It was more, I loved music and creating music and writing music and singing and performing. I hated the music industry. It was a roller coaster ride. There were some really dark times dealing, with all the bullshit of record labels and management companies and just this roller coaster ride. And it became very, very, I became really dysfunctional. Like, my life became really dysfunctional. And I think I was craving normalcy a little bit and craving like something healthy and something better. And so when I when I kind of transitioned from music into fitness, it was really more like I was saying, you know, a buddy of mine who was an actor in New York City and I was a singer, and we were just training together, and we found this, you know, we found this style of training that we loved in functional fitness, and then in CrossFit, and we just started doing it and we got hooked. And then it was a matter of like, you know, when we started bringing like new people into the mix to train with us, and I started to, you know, kind of coach a little bit the methodology. It was almost like I was just coaching because I was showing people what to do. Like they hadn't done it before, you know, it wasn't like formal coaching, but I was like, oh, this is cool. And I kind of recognized that this could be a new stage, because music, you know, great music and great songs, etc., you know, they have a way of changing people's lives, right? Like they take people away from the everyday, right? And the stressors and the problems and things. Well, fitness is similar in the way that you can change people's lives through fitness, and especially through a methodology. And so it just kind of so happened that I discovered that, and then fitness became kind of a new stage for me. And it became a new way for me to affect people and change people's lives, and to contribute. And I kind of feel like that's, you know, almost like what drives me is being able to affect people, you know. And so those early days, I just remember kind of feeling that high from being able to help people and coach people. And I found that from
Do you
being able
still
to
get that?
coach, you know, yeah, for sure. All the time. Um, you know, I don't coach now. I don't really coach classes anymore.
Mm.
You know, but when I do, like when I go to a competition, so the games, this past games, we partnered with GoWatt, and you know, they took over one of the big CrossFit gyms in Madison, and Underdogs taught a class. We taught a big class, right? And I taught the class, and you still get that high. You still get that high teaching people, you know, like the class itself. We focused on you know, deadlifting and bench pressing, and then the Metcon had like, you know, pull-ups and this and that, and just being able to tweak people and help people and have them come out of it and come up to you and be like, wow, you know, no one had ever given me that cue before. No one had ever, you know, kind of taken a look and broken down my movement that way. And you still get that feeling, you know, and then now I get that feeling, you know, when I'm in the gym or at a competition and I'm helping, you know, Ricky or Alex or Sarah or whoever it might be. And you know, you get that feeling by having that effect, you know, and being able to pull the best out of them by helping them maximize their potential. You know, and yeah, I mean, it's a labor of love, you know, you do it because you love it, you know. And yeah, I mean, I've been doing it a long time, man, and it's still something I love to do and love to you know, I still get a kick out of it. I was, you know, this past weekend was Down Under Championship, and you know,
Yeah.
watching
Have you
some
been
of
to
our younger
Australia?
athletes. I haven't been yet. No, it's crazy. We have this amazing presence in Australia, and I just have never made it out there. But it's the problem is that every time there's a big competition in Europe, there's a big competition, or in Australia, like
Yeah.
every year they do North America West semifinal and Torian are on the same weekend. So
Yeah.
it's like, you know, the majority of our in-house athletes are competing. I can't just get up and leave, especially because out there, you know, we have, you know, Benny, who is one of our coaches, Ricky's brother. You know, he has a few athletes, so he can he can coach those athletes that weekend for us there, while I have to be here. You know, but I do plan over the next year or two to be able to get out there. My goal for next year is to make it out there for Down Under, you know, next December.
Man,
But
when I
yeah, it's
watch,
go
I
ahead.
think it's gonna be amazing. Because when I watch all the semis and stuff, like, and I've been to Berlin this year,
Yeah, I love Berlin.
and
I'm sad that it's not in Berlin again.
yeah, it's Frankfurt is the semifinal,
Yeah,
isn't it?
I mean, I'm gonna love
Yeah.
going there too, but
They
yeah,
posted a huge venue
I
though.
love Berlin. Yeah, I know.
I think it's in
Massive.
Lyon, and the location looks massive, man.
Well, for us here in North America West, it's where the games were in Carson for
Yeah.
years. It's at the StubHub Center. I mean, it's going to be outdoors, which is crazy, first of all. And second of
Yeah.
all, it's a huge, the venue. They have the option to be able to use the track. They could use the tennis stadium. They could use the soccer
A
stadium.
track,
So
man.
it's a
No
massive
more air
venue.
runners. No more air
I
runners at
hope so.
semifinal, man. That
I
would be
know. Yeah, I
amazing.
know. That would be so
But I know.
cool.
I don't think
I
it's gonna
know.
happen. But what
I
I
know.
was
I
gonna
know.
say, like, no offense to the American and North American semifinals, but Europe and Australia,
Oh,
from a
so much better.
spectator view, it's like
Yeah.
fucking rock shows.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Yeah, I was in Berlin this past year. I was obviously here in North America at semifinals, and the North American semifinals were they just didn't work. They felt they didn't feel like a big event. They didn't have
Mm.
the passion. They didn't have that. And I didn't make it to Torium, but you can just see it. You can see the people in Torium. But I was
Yeah,
in Europe, and it was so much. The vibe was just different. Yeah, the
yeah.
vibe was different, man. The vibe was so much cooler. And I don't think that they can't do that here. I just think the venues they've been choosing and the way that they're putting on the events are just not, it's not ideal. So hopefully they'll get it back. I think that where they're going to hold the events in Knoxville, I think it's better than Orlando, but I really think the one in California has a chance to be epic because of the history of where it is. And,
Yeah. Started there.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the hub.
So, I mean, that could be super cool.
Yeah. Man, what you said about the highest, it translates over so good, because I wanted to have you on the show because of you were coaching Bronislav to
Yeah.
the games last year, this season.
Yeah.
Is this still a thing? Are you still coaching him?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So he's in Dubai this week.
Yeah.
We have Underdogs has 4 athletes competing in Dubai with Bron, Ricky, Kyra Milligan, and Shahad Budeps. But I personally coach Bron and Ricky, so they're both in Dubai. It was really cool because they got a chance to train together yesterday, just doing some pre-competition stuff, like
Yeah.
just some sweat sessions before Dubai. That it was fun to see Bron and Ricky train together. So yeah, the plan is to continue with Bron, and he wants to try to qualify again as an individual. I mean, he's aged up now, so he's also in masters, so he could
Yeah.
conceivably do
Oh,
both
wow.
because now they're 2 separate events, right? So he could conceivably do individual and master if he wants to. And I think he's good enough to. I still think his body's in good shape. He doesn't really have any nagging injuries or anything, and hopefully that'll be the case. We'll keep him healthy, and I think he has the potential to do what he did last year, or be even better. Be even a little better than he was last year, and then we'll see what happens. Obviously, at quarters and semis. The thing for Bron is more probably just getting through, because
Exactly.
he's not a great online athlete, and the fact that they've cut the field a little bit is a little scary for him. So we just have to really dial it in for quarterfinals. But yeah, he's a blast. He's a great dude. I enjoy coaching.
Man,
He's
he's a
super. I'll be
character.
honest with you, super. He's easy to coach, man. He's easy.
That's
He's just
interesting
like,
for me because, like, I wanted to have you on because I don't think like people or our bubble give this story enough credit. If you would have told
yeah,
me, like, at the beginning of 2023, like, Bronislav is going to the games, I was gonna, no way is this dude gonna go
yeah,
back to the games, especially with
yeah,
this insane semifinal stacked field in
yeah,
Europe with 40 fucking athletes. There's no way.
yeah,
But
yeah,
he made it. And he
yeah.
made it, like, in a strong fashion.
Impressive
What do you
way.
think about
Yeah,
his
exactly.
performance, man?
Yeah, I thought it was great. To be honest with you, so when he called me, 2022, it was probably like September, October, in that range in 2022. And, Bron and I had known each other for several years. We had never worked together. But I had coached another Polish athlete, and so I'd become friendly. And I would say friendly in the sense of, every time we saw each other, we'd say hello, but, we'd never really spoken at length. But I think he respected what I do and what I did. And he called me and he said, "Hey, I want to ask you if you'd be interested in coaching me." He said, "I've been trying to program for myself the last few years and it's not working." Um, he said, "I just don't hold myself accountable. I don't do the hard things that I need to do."
Yeah.
And I said, listen, as long as you listen and as long as you do what I ask you to do, because it's not going to be fun. I'm not going to give you the things that you're good at. You're going to be running 3 times a week. You're going to be doing a lot of classic CrossFit, it's going to be stuff that you don't like. And as long as you're cool with that. And he said, yeah. And he was phenomenal. I mean, he never complained about anything, he followed the program to a T. He's very easy in the sense that he doesn't ask a lot of questions. He doesn't, he just does what he just did what I said, essentially. He listened, he trusted that I knew what he needed to do. And we saw what happened, he was, the previous year he didn't get out of quarterfinals. And this past year he made the games, and then he finished top 30. It wasn't like he struggled at the games. He did well. He made the first cut, and then obviously, to finish, I think it was 25th or 26, something along those lines, 20, somewhere around there. Which is, to be top 30 in the world, especially at 34 years old, that's fucking impressive, and he's a good dude. He's just chill. He's got a great sense of humor. He's fun to be around. I think everybody likes him, and, he doesn't get too serious, which is cool. He's different in person. He never looks like he's too stressed out at competitions. He doesn't get too high. He doesn't get too low. He just, which is a great attribute to have. You don't want to be too emotional in a competition. Yeah, man, it was great. And I think we had we have a really good relationship, and I look forward to another year, of being able to work with him. I genuinely just like him. He's a good dude.
Yeah, I love this guy. He's so much fun.
Yeah, I think he's a fan favorite, right? Because he's this, God almighty. People don't realize, like, when you see him in person, it's just like, how is this guy moving the way that he moves? He's a massive, massive individual, his wrists and his ankles and his calves, like he's just a ball of muscle. He's 100 kilos of just muscle. And to be honest, like he could easily, like, that's as light as he can be. He could easily be 110 or 120 and carry it with no problem. The problem was, in CrossFit, he just wouldn't be able to move. Yeah. But like this guy could, if we did 3 to 6 months of just bodybuilding and eating, he could jump on stage and be a professional bodybuilder. He'd be 120 kilos of just ripped muscle and get on stage and win a bodybuilding competition. That's the way his body is. He's not, you look at him and he's not made for CrossFit. He's not.
Yeah.
But what he does, his ability to move weight, but then also he's very skilled. He's skilled for a big guy. He's super flexible. His shoulders and are very stable, and he's got great ankle mobility, and he's never going to be great at running, but he's never going to be great at long endurance, but he's good enough now that he can compete, and then he can make it up because he has home runs and different things.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's cool, man. He's an interesting cat, and he's a really fun guy to coach for sure.
Was that, honestly, did you think, oh, this is gonna work out, or did you think it's probably not gonna make it?
I didn't know at first. And then after a couple of months, I felt like he was going to surprise the shit out of people. Yeah, I
Yeah.
did. Because I started to see some of his results, in training, comparatively to some of my other athletes. And I was like, oh, this guy is like, he's pretty dang good. And then he smoked the open, which historically he'd been terrible in the open. And I was like, okay, he's got a real shot. And then, I mean, he murdered the quarters. He finished top 25 in the world, not just
Yeah.
Europe. I mean, he was phenomenal. Um, so yeah, I mean, I was obviously pleasantly surprised, but then I wasn't, and then I go into the games, especially when the workouts came out, for semis. I in the back of my mind, I expected him to, yeah, I expected him to be in the mix. I really did. I didn't expect him to win, but I expected he would be somewhere in that 8th to 12th, at semis.
Yep.
And that's exactly where he was, and he did, he did exceptionally well. Um, and I just think he's one of those guys who his temperament lends itself very well to competition, because he doesn't get too high, he doesn't get too low. He's just you know, and that's important. That's an important attribute to have.
Yeah, man. I think it was like liberating for him, kind of in a way, to give away the coaching, because, like you said, he was coaching himself all the time. And when I had him
Yeah.
on the show, I asked
Yeah.
him, "Was it difficult to give that piece away from yourself?" And he was, "No, it was like amazing, because I didn't have to think about it at all. I'm just doing what he says, and it clearly
Yeah.
works." Like,
Yeah, it's cool. I also think for
Yeah.
him, like, I think it was important because, he's not a 20-year-old, right? Like
Yeah.
he's a man, he's 34, 35 years old. Like, I think it was
Yeah.
important to him to have an experienced coach, to have somebody who he felt like, okay, this is someone who's done this for a long time, who, has coached athletes on the podium, who knows what he's doing, and I trust that he can take a look at me as an athlete and be able to break down what I need to do. And that's, so I think for him, it was just a matter of trust. And once he, found somebody he could trust, I think it was easy for him to give over the reins.
Yeah.
And obviously, I mean, it's been successful thus far, and I expect it to continue to be successful. So, yeah.
The most interesting sentence he said was, like, I don't know where he said it. I think it's some interview at another place, but he said it was basically his first season as a CrossFit athlete. And I think that
Yeah.
sums it up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's cool. I think, I think he, yeah, I mean, I had him doing things that, he wasn't used to doing. But where we're at with the sport, there's a certain way that you have to train if you want to be
Hmm.
elite. There's a certain amount of volume. There's a certain amount, and for somebody like Bron, he had to attack his weaknesses. I mean, he had to, because they were just getting there. There were a few things that when they came up, they were just obliterating him. It was impossible for him to come back from. And so if we could just turn those bottom two finishes, three into like a middle of the pack, then he has enough ability and enough home runs to be able to make that up. But he had to be, we had to address those, and we'll continue to. I mean, those are things he'll have to always work on.
Yeah.
And so that's what we do. But yeah, it's great, and it was really fun for me, to have a couple of European athletes, obviously with Bron, and then obviously, now with Sara too. Sara's different. We just have to get Sara healthy. That's just been an issue of her not being healthy. She hasn't been healthy in years, and still battling it. And it's been hard. I mean, I know for her mentally, it's just really challenging, because I do believe if we can get her for a period of time where she can be consistent in training and be healthy and actually go into a competition healthy, I still think that the old Sara is in there. Like I still think
Yeah.
that she has the capability of doing amazing things. It's just going to be a matter of whether we can, whether that, can happen. I'm optimistic, but I think it's really going to take that period of time where she's able to stay healthy, she's able to be consistent, and we can go into a competition actually healthy, because that hasn't happened in so many years, and I
Yeah,
think people.
basically, yeah. If I think about Sara, it's basically since the first year she showed up, and I think she got third or second,
Third, yeah,
third,
third.
and the next year I think again. But
Yep,
that first year, I was thinking, oh, she's gonna win the games, and
yeah,
I've been
for sure.
thinking this like every other year, you know. I've been
Yeah,
thinking, oh, if she's healthy and she's gonna win it eventually at some point. But it keeps stacking
yeah.
up the years when I think it's interesting. But man, she is like, I think this is so. Since when do you start working with her?
I started working with her just after quarterfinals this past season. So
Oh
earlier this
man,
year. So not very long. Yeah, it's been less than a
yeah,
year. Right after quarters, and we started working together. And then I came over there to coach her and Bron, but she wasn't healthy. I mean, she wasn't healthy going into semifinals. She had a
yeah,
ton of issues. And the thing about Sara that I respect so much is that she doesn't really publicize it because she doesn't want to use it as an excuse.
yeah,
But if people knew the shit that she was dealing with, like they'd be like, holy shit, like how is she even competing? And I say to her, listen, like eventually you're gonna have to write a book, because it's like, you're gonna have to, like, people are gonna be very interested to know a lot of the
yeah.
stuff that you had to deal with. And um but I will say this about Sara, and I've always, Sara and I have been friendly for a long time. Sara and Carrie were very close, Carrie Pierce. And so Sara and I, have been friendly for years. And Sara's manager, Snorri, and I are, best friends. I mean, he's one of my best friends in the
I
world.
love Snorri.
Um,
He's amazing.
oh, he's amazing.
You could start a
I
band.
mean,
He's playing
Snorri's,
guitar.
yeah, he's incredible. I know. Snorri and I are, I mean, we talk just about every day, just check in and see how each other are doing and those types of things. I mean, it's a true friendship. Um, but I think the thing about Sara is that she's one of the few superstars in
Yeah,
the
she
sport. I
is.
mean, she's a
She's like
genuine
a rock star.
superstar.
Yeah,
Yes. She is, what you see is what you get. And what I mean by that is there are athletes, and I won't name names, but there are athletes that you see on camera and you see on Instagram, and they have a certain persona. And then behind the scenes, they are not like that at all.
hmm.
They're just not. They're not extremely genuine. They're not extremely friendly. They do things that and the athletes know that, and the people that are closer to that, but the spectators don't, right? And that's just the way it is. And that's fine. I mean, that's, they've built a brand and they have to have this public persona to keep the brand going. Sara is exactly what you see. She is absolutely as genuine as the day is long. Like and I've gotten to see that from her. She cares about her fans. She cares about people, almost to a fault, almost to like where we go to a competition and it's like, Sara, we got to go. Like you just did this, you just did this event. You're beat up. You got to go get, you got to go see the physio. You got to go get sleep. You got to get food. She will sit there and she'll sign every autograph and take every picture and hug every person and kiss every baby and literally just be there for her fans and for the sport. And it's the coolest thing you've ever seen. I've never seen that, from someone who's such a massive superstar in the sport. But she is, and then the other thing is, like, she came to Vegas for a while, and like when she walks in the gym and everyone's like, holy shit, it's Sara. But by day 3, she's like one of the crew, it's just another thing. She doesn't big time anybody, man. She's just, she's as good as it gets. You know, she's as genuine as it gets. She's a very easy person to fall in love with, like just as a human, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And I adore her. I just think she's just fantastic as a human being. So it's been a pleasure, you know, it's been an absolute pleasure. And as a coach, because she's such a great person, you want to see her be able to do great things, you know? And so it's important to me to try to, you know, to try to really restore, you know, help her restore her career. And that's what we're going to try to do. And, you know, it's not going to be easy. She's going through a lot of things even right now, but we're going to do the best we can to try to get her back.
Yeah, I would definitely watch her on the reality show.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
If
for
there
sure.
if there would
Yeah.
be a reality show at some point, she has to be in it.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
it would
She's
be
awesome.
like bad marketing from the
Yeah. I agree
directors.
with you. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
man.
sure.
But
She's
it's
super
true what you
cool.
say, and she has a massive fan base, and people love her. And I think that workout at semis with the rope, I mean, it
Yeah.
was. I think it's got to be a devastating moment for her, but also like the fan support. Like
Oh,
people were going
unbelievable.
crazy. People were going crazy at the
Yeah.
stands. I was standing there and I had goosebumps because it was basically she started like really hard and made it like
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this or I crash and burn. And then she crashed and burned, but everyone in the stands was like, "Oh, she crashed and burned. Oh, she's hurt. She needs us." And then everybody was like clapping and cheering her on. It was an amazing atmosphere.
It was. Yeah, it was amazing to watch. You know, she didn't know at the time, you know, she came off the floor and said, you know, I have something going on. I can't feel my
Yeah.
elbow, etc. And, you know, she had torn a ligament, obviously, in her elbow. Um, but yeah, I mean, it is amazing. It's amazing. There are certain people who just transcend the sport, right? She's one of them. I mean,
Yeah.
she really is. Yeah. She's an incredible ambassador for the sport. Yeah, for sure.
That was one of my favorite moments at the semifinals. It was devastating, but it was also like
Yeah,
for as a spectator, it was like really amazing to
sure.
see that love like
Yeah.
piling on a person.
Yeah.
That was really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. It's amazing to watch, you know, to see how the fans and how the spectators react to her. She's just so
Yeah.
cool, you know, and she got that thing. She's got it. Whatever it is,
Yeah.
Sara has it. Yeah, without
And
question.
then coming back from that event and like finishing the weekend, like do your best. Like it's also like amazing. I think
Yeah.
I would have
Well,
pulled
she's
out
a
after
fighter.
that. I
Yeah.
would have pulled
She's a
out of
fighter.
that.
Yeah, she's just a fighter. She's not going
It's
to. And, you know, even sometimes to her detriment, you know, because there's
yeah.
sometimes she probably should, but she's just a fighter, you know. So she's got a ton of guts, and yeah, we'll see. I really, you know, I hope for the best because she deserves it. She's just a great person.
I would love to see her back at the games and stuff. And is
Me too.
how challenging is it like to coach mostly remote like European athletes?
Yeah, it's you know, I think I've gotten used to it. You know, I have some obviously, you know, very you know, elite level remote athletes, obviously with Ricky and Bron, Sara, you know, Caitlin Van Ziel, who's also in Australia. But I just think it's become a huge part of the sport, you know,
Mm.
for a lot of these athletes. Um, I don't find it too difficult. You know, the toughest thing is just not being able to be there sometimes in person at big events. That's hard because you want to be there for them. But aside from that, you know, with modern technology and Zoom and, you know, WhatsApp and this and that, I mean, it's easy to keep track of. And then obviously there's still the you know, the in-person athletes that I coach and, um, you know, Alex being the, obviously the top athlete right now here in our Vegas camp. And, but for me, it's different, man. I'm at a point in my career where like these athletes are like my family, it's not a business relationship really anymore. I just gotten to the point where I have such close relationships with them, and, so there's a lot invested there, a lot of emotion and care and love. And so yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's cool. It's a cool thing to get to do what I do, on at this level. And I don't know how many more years I have in me, but I think I've got a few more good years. So hopefully we'll
I hope so,
keep
man.
plugging away. Yeah, I hope so too.
I hope so. Yeah, that's a thing which you have in common with Snorri too. Like he taught me like too. It's I can't be like, of course he's business, but he said I can't be business with these people. They're my jam.
No, I know. It's true. It's true. I think it works for some coaches. I think some coaches you can have that,
Yeah.
It's just that's not the way I'm built. I'm just not built that way. So yeah.
It's interesting to see like both sides. Like there are some coaches, like for example, Andre Uday in Europe. He is like, I can't be their buddy, I'm the coach.
Yeah.
I'm just their coach. And it's working for him. He got like
Yeah,
several athletes
he's
to the games
fantastic.
and
Yeah,
like crushing it with
great. He's
his
one of the great up and coming coaches for sure. And that's what I'm saying. I think it works. I think it works for some,
different people, different
exactly. And
style, man.
You have to know what you are. You have to understand, what your style is. And, for me, that's just not who I am. It's not my style. And that's fine. It's just different, like you said, different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
For sure.
Justin, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, dude.
Past
My
the
pleasure.
hour.
Yeah, it's good. It went fast.
Yeah, it's always cool. Like, bam.
Thanks for having me, man.